Hello, my name is Doug Hubble and welcome to Astrophotography Tutorials. Today we're going to talk about processing NGC281. If you haven't yet downloaded NGC281, you can see the previous video and I'll have a download link and a little bit of a description of that data set we're about ready to process. Now, I've already received a great deal of fantastic images people have returned. I don't know if I'm going to be able to match some of the skills of the people out there, because you guys have really done a great job processing this data set. Anyway, I got a bunch of comments and I really appreciate all the comments I got back. One of the things that somebody returned back to me was a CCD inspector view of the field of view, and I had other people comment on it as well. And if you looked at the data set, you could see that the corners were having a little bit of a problem. Now, this particular image set that I have is an Eon 120 with an RFL 4087 Teleview field flattener reducer. And I've kind of suspected that I hadn't been getting the kind of performance that I would really like out of this particular setup. And you can see here, when I focus right in the center. You can see this green, light green bubble, and then you can see the corners kind of curving up, and that represents what you're seeing in the data set, that those stars are having those football trails and not looking very good in some of the corners. Now, that could be attributed to a lot of things. Could be the weight. I think it's mostly to do with the the field flattener not actually designed for my telescope in this particular case. This one here has a 35.6 curvature, which really isn't that great, so I apologize for giving you this kind of data, but at least you know exactly what you're dealing with. So let's get started with this. Sit back, grab a coffee, and let's get started with this. When I stack my images, I like to do a lot of my pre-processing in MaximDL. There are literally hundreds of different ways you can do this, but I'm just going to go through the steps what I would do. First thing I want to do is set the calibration for my frames. So in that data set you download, there is a set of bias, darks, flats, all inside there. Now, the way you do this, let me just kind of show you this. And by the way, I'm going to try to do this as quick as I can. I know you don't want to see a bunch of just processing speed just sitting there spinning while doing nothing. But when I get to those points, I'll just stop and then come back to it. And now here, I'll just remove this group, and this is a flat, and I'm going to say add the group. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a flat. In this particular case, it's the S2. So I'm going to select all of those and just open them. And then you can just click right here and you can call that S2, so you know exactly which flat you're working with. Now, the way that I do it, what I do is I do each set by itself. So what I'll do is I'll uncheck the O3 flat and the S2 flat, and I'll work on the hydrogen alpha first. I've already loaded up the bias and the dark frames, so I have those already loaded up. So I'll just say OK. And then what I like to do is go to File, Batch, Save, and Convert, and we'll select the files. So select them all, click on one, Control A, select it, and then click Open. And now you see all these images in here, and what we can do is just say perform calibration. So what that's going to do is it's going to take these files that have a lot of the camera noise, and it's going to remove all of that noise using your darks, your flats, and your bias. So let me just go ahead. I'm going to tell it which path to use here. Original files are, I'd like to make another subdirectory, and it's up to you on how you like to create your processing step, but I like to create a folder called processing. I'll say OK, and then what I'm going to do inside that folder called processing, I'm going to create another subfolder called HA. That's the set I'm working with right now. So everything that I have set up here will now then get calibrated, and I'll just say OK. Before and after the calibration to the frame. This one here is before, excuse me, after, and this is what it looks like before. Now you can see obviously there's a lot more noise inside here. A lot of these white dots that are in there, that's just camera noise. Now you can still see, like, even in this calibrated frame after it's been calibrated, there are still a little bit of noise inside of each one of these frames, but it's not nearly as bad as what you see right here. This is just, you know, before calibration and then after calibration. Now what will happen is when we get ready to start stacking this, there's going to, the stacking is going to remove even more of any of these imperfections or noises that you see inside the image. So we did the hydrogen alpha. Now the next step that I would do is go back to my set calibration, and let's say I was going to do my 03 next. So I'd uncheck the HA flat and click the 03 and say OK, and then do the exact same thing and repeat it. In my folder that I have the original S2 03 hydrogen alpha original frames, and what I did is I created a subfolder called Processing, and now there's these folders again in here, but now instead of the raw images, they have been calibrated, and now they have less camera noise in it. So the next step after here is to take all of these frames that we have, and I like to just review them and make sure that there isn't any kind of bogus ones that I need to maybe throw out. So what I like to do is, let me grab this out, and I'll just select all of them and just drag them into Maxim DL here. And what I'll do is I'll just kind of look through it. You know, you never know. There might have been some lost tracking, or you know, whatever the case may be, clouds, etc. Some frames that are just not right, there's no need to bring them in. If they're bad, throw them out. You know, it's just going to influence your final image. Okay, for the most part, they're okay. So what we'll do now is we're going to stack it. So I go into Process, Stack, and I'm going to add files, processing folder that I have, because these are already calibrated. Select all the hydrogen alpha and say open. Okay, so here are all the hydrogen alpha. What I like to do is I like to also select the quality here, and what I would do is check the full width, half maximum. You can do roundness, you can do all these other criteria, but first just do is just measure all, and what it will do is it'll go through and it'll look at each one of the images and give it a score, so that you can decide whether or not you want to eliminate it. Now they all have these black X's, or not black X's, but black checks next to it, so that means it's going to accept that as part of the stacking. Now if I take the FWHM and lower that level down until I start seeing red X's on there, then I'll know that that's a point where I will remove any images. Okay, here I'm down to 375. You can see right now that these two images right here, it's saying that, hey, these are like the worst of the image. If you actually click on it, I think it, yeah, see right here it says give an image rank. So this is 20 out of 20. So this is basically saying this is the absolute worst image you have in your data set here. So let's just keep going. I got 2 now in there. I'm going to keep going, bringing it down here. Okay, we've got 3. I'm just going to go ahead and add 1 more. Let's see what I got. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Got some of those images eliminated. I'm just going to go to the Combine tab. I like to use Sigma Clip, and I'll just say Go. This image that comes up behind it. I'm just going to go ahead and close this stacking window and we'll take a look at it. Now, I wanted to give you some comparisons so you can understand the different levels of the processing part here of stacking and calibrating. Now, this is an example of a frame uncalibrated. Okay, you can see just noise everywhere. Now, here's the next level, step 2, which you're doing the calibration. You can see that it removed a lot of the noise from this original frame, and when you calibrate it, there's less noise. And then now we compare this to the final version where it was actually stacked, and it's not bad at all. I mean, you don't see those stray pixels inside there, so this is a really good start for beginning our processing steps. Now, there's a trick here that I like in Maxim DL. It's up to you whether you want to do it. Sometimes what I like to do is I like to just go ahead and save this and work with this as a TIFF right into Photoshop. But I like this one thing in here in Maxim DL. It's a filter, and it's called Digital Development. Now, what Digital Development will do is it'll take all the bright objects and all the very faint objects and kind of combine them to so they're not overpowering. They kind of like equal each other out. So let's just take this off, and I'll show you. Right now, it's called the kernel low pass, and you can. Right now, it's not applied to the image. Look at the stars right now. The stars are really bright. The faint nebula is kind of faint there. But when you put on this filter, what it does is it tones down the stars, and it also brings out some of the more faint detail in there. Here again, let's take a look at it. This is without or with digital development. Then take digital development off. You can see how bright the stars are. To me, it's a quick and easy way. I mean, you could take it into Photoshop. You could apply your curves, and you could go through all that if you would like. But this digital development tool actually does it really nice, really quick. There's another option here which you can do, which is kernel low pass more, and that seems to darken the image even more. I have a preference of the kernel low pass. That's just my favorite. So I'm just going to do this imaging set. I'm going to say OK here, and I'm going to accept that DDP on there. And you can see that this image it did a good job of bringing out the faint detail, and it also toned down the stars here. So what I need to do now is I need to save this. Now we're going to end up bringing this in, at least what I'm going to show you here today. I'm going to bring it into Photoshop. So let me do save. And when I do saving in my data set here, I like to make another folder, and I call it finals. And the finals is where I keep all of my original final data set images. So let's just go ahead. I'm going to call this HA. And I don't want to make it a fit since I'm going to bring it into Photoshop. Let's make it a TIFF. And I don't want 8-bit. I'll make it 16-bit. And I'll just hit save. We'll go put it in the finals, of course, first. And hit save. And what I would do now is I would just repeat this step 2 more times for the S2 and the O3. Another quick note here is that when you get back inside of to stack the images, you'll have, like, this has the hydrogen alpha. You could uncheck it so it doesn't process it, but what I usually do is I like to take the whole folder and just delete it. And then I go and say add files, and I'm going to go next to my O3 channel, and I'm going to select all those, open that up. I selected it, by doing the quality and, eliminating the frames that I didn't want. And I noticed that this one, like the FWHM was 3.05. Now this particular one, if we look at it, the actual rating is 3.06, so it's like ranked as the 12th of 17 images. I really don't want to throw this one out, because if I take this down or up one more, I lose 4. So there's like a whole bunch that I'm missing right at that point. So I'm just going to take this one image out, and when you check that, it puts a check marks on it, but it's a red check. It's saying that you selected to stack this, but your threshold says that we should remove it. I just wanted to kind of show you that so you understand. If you see that red X, it means you can actually take it and say, no, I really want it in my set. Processing Finals folder here, I have 3 images saved to TIFF, and they've all been DDP'd. And now what we have to do is we have to align the images. Each one of these, the star alignment is just a little bit off from one another. I use dithering, and dithering kind of like makes the image move a little bit from frame to frame, and that helps relieve some of the noise when you do dithering. Let's go ahead now, bring up Maxim DL again, and let me show you an example of the alignment that we're going to have to do next. Now here's the hydrogen alpha filter, and if I go next to the S2, you can see the stars are kind of like bouncing around. Here's O3, S2, hydrogen alpha. Anyway, you cannot align or begin to bring the images together to process until after you've done the alignment. Now the way I do the alignment is I go to Process, Align, and these are the available images. Now the available images will only show up if you have them open in the frame here. So make sure you have them opened up, and I do have all 3 in there. I like to use my hydrogen alpha as the master frame, because it's usually the brightest, most prominent frame. So I'm gonna go ahead and put that over there. Then I'm gonna take the S2, bring that over there. The O3, bring that over there. So I'll say OK. So now what it's going to do is it's going to say, what kind of alignment mode do you want to use? There's auto, star matching. I don't know. I seem to have my best luck with doing the manual 2-star. You can do most any of those options that you want. But what it's doing right now, as you can see, it's on star 1. And what I like to do is I like to find a prominent star that I can select and pick it out relatively easy on each one of the frames. Now let's take a look here at this hydrogen alpha one. This one looks identifiable. It's got a fairly large star, and it's got another little tiny star right to the left of it. So what I'm doing is I'm using my scroll wheel, and I'm actually zooming in on my mouse as far as I can go. In this particular case, I'm up to 1600%, and there's this little kind of like turquoise circle around here. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to align this to the very center of the star, and then I'm going to do a left click. So, oh, wait a minute. This is set to manual 1-star. We want manual 2-star. Okay, get that right here. Anyway, get right on the very center of it, and then do a left click. And now what it did is it automatically jumped over to the next one, which was the S2. And we could zoom back out, and we could verify that it's actually the right star, but usually it's pretty close. And the reason why I chose the star is because it has like that little tiny companion star right next to it. Gonna get as close as I can to the center. Click on that, and then now it came to the O3, and again there's that little tiny companion star. If we want to, we could zoom back out and verify that that's it by using the scroll wheel. Get that on the very center and click that. Now you'll notice that it's asking, okay, what do you want for star 2? Alright, so that one was easily identified. I mean, we could identify that one. Let's try another large star, maybe just a little bit out in the corner here. Let's see. This one looks like a large star right here. Go ahead. I'm going to center this one. Click it. And now it's going to come back out and it's asking for the next one. That looks pretty darn close to the same one. Go back out and there it is again on the last one. Click that. Okay, now it's going. It's just going to keep cycling back through it until, I don't know why it doesn't just say, hey, you've aligned it. But anyway, after you've gone through, you'll notice that it goes back to star 1 again. But we've already done 2 stars on each frame. Just going to say OK now. And what it's doing now is it's kind of like tilting the frames and aligning them to the master frame in this case, which was the hydrogen alpha. Now, here's the hydrogen alpha frame. We've got it at 100%. If we click on the S2, we should notice that there shouldn't be any shifting on the stars. The stars should be right along on top of each other. So let me click on the S2. Looks good. And again, so it appears that it's aligned everything up. It is aligned. We need to save these. So if you just go ahead and you click this out and close it, it's going to say, hey, do you want to save it? Yes, let's save it. And there's the S2. If we do the exact same thing, close it. Yep, I want to save it. And you'll notice if you get to the hydrogen alpha and you click on it, it won't ask if you want to save it because it was the master. It didn't move at all. So we aligned the S2 and the O3 to the hydrogen alpha. We're in Photoshop. I have all 3 images opened up. There's the S2, the O3, and the hydrogen alpha. And the first thing I should say is that I'm using CS4, and I know there's all kinds of different versions, but these steps I'm showing you should apply to every version. A matter of fact, if you don't have Photoshop, just do a search on YouTube for CS2 download. You can actually download it from Adobe's site at no charge. But whatever version you have, as long as you have Photoshop with layers, you'll be fine. So go ahead and use whatever version you may have. Now, the first step that I like to do is I like to balance the background, or the black point on the image. You can kind of look right now, and there's different values there. So what we want to do is we want to try to balance that out. Now, the way you can do that is if you look down deep into it and you hold your mouse over the black point, this K value right here, when it's closer to 100% or 99%, that is K is black, and that's the darkest part you can be. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to press Control L, bring up the levels channel here, and I'm going to click on here. This is the set the black point. So I'm going to double click that, open it up, and you can see right now that it has these values of R, G, and B. Now R, G, and B, 25, 25, 25. That's what I like to use. I would recommend anywhere from 15 to 30, whatever your preference is. Anyway, if you have like a set the black point to pure black, it doesn't really look as good in my opinion. I think you should have that little bit of level that raises it up to make it look more like real space. Anyway, I'm going to say OK here, and I'm going to select over here, finding the deepest, darkest black point I can find. Now, if you look over here on the K value, right to the right of it, it says 100%. I have my black point set at 25. I'm going to left click now, and you'll notice that it immediately changed the background here. This is what it looked like before, and this is after. So there you have the black point set up. So I'm going to say OK there, and I'm going to do this to each and every level. We'll go into the S2 frame here, and then hit Control L, bring up the black point, click on the black point marker, and then find the value that's closest to 100. This one, about the closest I can find, is about 99%, which is pretty much black. Go ahead and click on it, and again, you can see how once we click that, it made the background come up a little bit. So we'll say OK there, and then we'll go into the O3, do the exact same thing, kind of come down into here, hit Control L, and I've got the eyedropper tool selected, and we'll find the eyedropper. Look, oh, there was 100% right there, 98, pretty darn close there. Keep bouncing off of one. Try it again. 99. That's going to be close enough. Oh, got to click this black point first, so let's do that. There's 99, and then click it, and there we go. Now if we do a preview before and after, you can see how that brought it up. Now what that's basically done is it's pretty much leveled the background to all three images here. So let's go ahead and take a look at those real quick. There we go. 1, 2, and 3. Bring all these monochrome images together and make a color image. I get this question quite often, as how do I make my monochrome image into a color image? So let me just review the steps here. It's really very easy. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with the hydrogen alpha image, and I'm going to hit Control A to select it all, then Control C to copy it. Now I have it in my paste buffer, so I'm going to do File, New, and this is where you set it. Now the color mode by default is going to come in as gray mode because that's what it sees it. It's a gray mode image. We're going to make it RGB color. We're going to say OK. And now what we do is we've got this hydrogen alpha channel, and we're going to paste it into the channels here. Now in case you don't see this channels window here, you can make that by clicking the window and then check the channels box, and that will appear for you. But now that we've got this hydrogen alpha, I'm going to use what's called the Hubble palette. And the Hubble palette is based on having hydrogen alpha as green, S2 is red, and O3 is blue. So I've got the green channel selected here, and I'm going to paste this hydrogen alpha channel into the green channel. So I'm going to select it, which is now it's blue, and now I'm going to press Control V and paste it in. Now we have the hydrogen alpha in the green channel. Now let's move on to the next one. We'll go over here to our S2 channel. We'll select that by Control A, select it all, Control C, copy it. Now go back into this RGB one, and now that I have the S2 is going to go into the red channel. So I'm going to click on the red channel, and I'm going to press Control V, paste that down into it. Now we've got one more channel left, which is our blue channel. So I'm going to go here, Control A, select it, Control C, copy it, go back into the color image, go to the blue channel, and press Control V. Now if you hit this little button right here, it brings them all together, and that is the combined total of all of the images combined in color. Now I like to always make a copy of the original one and keep that as a starting point. So there's the original after we combined it together. Shade channel is really over dominating this whole image. It's a bright green, and one of the things I would recommend is taking a look at BF Astro's site. I'm going to follow some of those steps here, but on his website, I'll give you a link to this palette. It goes through and it explains how the greens sometimes get overpowering, and he uses a selective color to make changes to give a better representation of the different gases there. So I'm going to follow those steps right now, and I've got the original image here. I'm going to make a copy of it now, and here I'm going to call this Selective Color. Okay, and what we'll do is we'll do Image Adjustments, Selective Color, and we'll start off first with the green. Get the green, and we'll take the cyan and make that a -100. I'll take the magenta and -25, and then we'll say OK. And by the way, as you're getting into this and you start working with it, if you see a color that you like, go ahead and accept it. I mean, there are no rules. All the colors are just an artistic interpretation of the nebula. So don't be afraid to stop or try or experiment something different. Anyway, I'm going to go to Image, adjustments, uh, selective color one more time, and I'm going to go to the yellows this time. And under the yellows, I'm going to take the cyan and make that a minus 100, and the magenta plus 25. Say OK. And then next I'm going to do image, adjustment, selective color one more time. And this time I'm going to take the cyan. And with the cyan, I'm going to take -1 here on the cyan. Then I'm going to go to the yellow and make that -100. Say OK. Go to image, adjustment, selective color, and again go back to the cyan and make the magenta -25, and then take the yellow and make that -100 and say OK. Now if we look in here, this is what the steps are outlining in on the BF Astro site. Now looking at the comparison before and after, you can see there's a definite difference. Now instead of just a plain green image, we've got some colors that represent golds, yellows, and blues, and greens. Now, like I was telling you earlier, there are no rules on the colors. I personally like a little bit deeper blue in there, so I'm going to go into here and go to selective color one more time. I'm going to select the cyan, and let's see here. Let's go ahead and take the cyan. Let me see what happens if I do this. Let's try bumping that up to +100, and the yellow, let's try bringing that down. Okay, that really made it a little bit more blue in the center there, and I kind of like that. So I'm just going to go ahead and keep that. Now, taking a look at this, let's zoom in on it. Let's see, we're at 152%. And the way that I process this image, I'm going to make a color set, and then I'm going to make a luminosity layer to go over the top of it. So I'm not really too concerned about the detail here. I'm just kind of looking for the color. That looks like it's a pretty good color. There looks like there's some little bit of jagged imperfections in there, but let me just try this. Let me go to I got Noise Ninja, so let me go filter, Picture Zone Noise Ninja, and we'll see what that does on top of it. And you can see it makes it a lot smoother there, so we'll just say OK. And now if we take a look at it, that's more of a smoother transition between it, and that looks pretty good right there. One other thing I might want to try to do here, remember this is my color image. Let's go ahead and try image, adjustments, vibrance, and let me just pump up the colors here a little bit. Let's see what happens when we bump it up just a little bit. Alright, we're getting some more deep color, so I'm going to say OK. Now, here's the difference. Before it was green, and now we've got some different colors inside there. Save this image in the Photoshop, and what we're going to work on next, we're going to work on our master luminance layer. Many times what people will do is they will take the hydrogen alpha layer and just use the hydrogen alpha layer as a luminance layer on top of it. There are some details in these other frames that are nice to bring along to make a master luminance. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you how I make a master luminance, bringing in the S2 and the O3. I did create a tutorial, and I'll put a link in the description below on all the steps on making a master luminance, including to get these little action tools that I have here. But what we need to do is we're going to take the S2 and the O3 and remove all of the stars and then blend them into the hydrogen alpha version. Now, if you look at the hydrogen alpha version, you can see the stars are nice and small, really tight. On the S2 image, you look at it here, they're a lot larger. And so what we want to do is we want to just use the stars out of the hydrogen alpha. So let's get started. So what I'm going to do here is I'm working with the S2 version first. And I've got this star removing action set right over here. I'm going to click on remove star and then play that action. Now as you can see, it made a new layer and it's called starless. And if you look at it here, you can see that most of the stars are gone, but some of the larger stars are still there. Now what I like to use is I like to use the healing brush tool. So what you can do is like select an area that's kind of I don't know, like a neutral background color. Hold the Alt key down and then left click it, and that'll be like your sample. And then when you bring it over the star, you begin to heal it. Now the brush size right here, you can see that it's brush size 8, and that's really too small for this. You could take the diameter and bring it up here. Or what you could do is you could just take the open and close square brackets and make it a little bit larger. Now see, as I put the mouse over the top of this, you can see it kind of disappearing. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to left click that once, and you can see it made that move, or disappear basically. So I'm going to go all these bright stars and just kind of like do a little bit of a cleanup to clean up all these bright stars out of the image. Now it may take a while to get it all cleaned up. Take your time and do that. And here's the starless version of the S2, and just to give you a comparison, here's what this version of S2 with the stars look like. And like I said, we're trying to make a master luminance. So now that I've got all the stars removed, I'm going to go through this and maybe just try to clean it up and maybe break out some more detail of it. Now that the stars are gone from here, when you go to like levels and stuff, you can actually pump it up and get maybe break out a little bit more. So let's just go Control M and bring up the curves a little bit. Here's the curves window. And we'll just see here. Let's pop that up just a little bit. Don't need to bring it up too much. You've already got that digital development on there, so it doesn't need to be brought up too much. And I'll just say OK. And looking at that now, let's see. Looks pretty good there. Let's go back in and do the levels check on it here. Control L, and let's see where we at on the dark spots here. We're in the 90%. Over here looking at the K value, 88. Here we go. We're not going to get too carried away with the processing on it right now. We're just going to do a little bit of pre-processing before we get into the master. I'm going to go ahead and do this again. For the 03 layers, but let's just go ahead and save this. Don't want to lose our work. Get over here to the 03, and we're going to use this action set called star removing, and we'll just go ahead and select it and then play it. It'll go through the steps and remove the stars, and once again it did a good job of getting most of the stars out of there, but there's still a few larger stars. And just to review one more time how we remove the stars, I grab the healing brush tool right here, and I try to find an area on the image that's the most neutral kind of background part of the image, and select the Alt key, hold it down, and then left click, and that becomes your new sample. So when you go over the top of the star with your mouse, you can see how it disappears. You do a left click on there once, and then what it does is it heals that part of the image to remove that last little bit of the star. And so what I do is I just kind of like go over these areas that are big and annoying stars. You want to get all these stars out of there. Again, it takes a little while to do it. One of the things that maybe you might have a question is about is that you're getting into this nebula here, and this nebula, if you find yourself getting into a nebula, you want to try to preserve it as much as possible. What you might want to try to do here, like in this spot, is go to a nebula area that's close to that and hold the Alt key down, left click, and get a sample of that nebula, and then click on it once, and that will bring it away without destroying too much of the nebula reference there. So just keep in mind that you don't just select one place on the background, hold the Alt key. You have to kind of match the area where it's at. So if you get into an area that isn't quite the same, you need to resample the area and then heal it. Because if you don't, then you're going to have like a big black spot or a big white spot in the area where you're doing the healing. Here's the hydrogen alpha, and here's the starless O3, and here's the starless S2. Now, when I look at the starless S2, I think I made a mistake. I probably shouldn't have put a curve on that because the background isn't the same level as our master here. So let's fix this right now. I'm holding the cursor over the black parts of the image, and you can look at the K value right here. When I hold it over there, they're at 82%, 88, 87. 81. So that's about where the K level is. Now if you go over here on the darkest parts, we're noticing that it's 92, 93. So it's off a little bit. So let's kind of balance that out on the S2. So let's bring up the levels, Control L. And what we'll do is we'll just take this middle band and we'll kind of tone it down just a bit. Let's see what that is. Now see right here where the K value is. If you look at the K value, it was 83, now it's 92. Let's take a look. This might be a good spot for it. 81, 93. This is looking more like a balanced version of it. You can see that the black areas and the K values are up a little bit and it isn't as bright as it was before. So I'm just going to say OK there. Now if we go over to the starless O3, let's take a look at that. That's 92, 90, 89. Looking at that K value. So it doesn't have to be exact, but it's a close representation of the same background level. Okay, so now that we have that, we're ready to start creating our master luminance. So I'm going to take the O3 layer, Control A, select it all, Control C, copy it. Now go over to the HA or the HA layer here, and I'm going to paste it over the top of that. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to change the layer to screen, and I'm going to take the opacity, and I don't want very much. I'm going to dial this way down, probably to about 15%. Okay, and then now we've blended the O3 layer in here. So let's call that O3. I'm pretty sure that's the one we just made, right? Yes, we did. There's the dancing ants around it. So now let's go to the S2, and we'll grab that one out. Again, do the same thing. Control A, select it all. Control C, copy it. Go over to the top of here, and Control V, paste it over the top. This is S2, and again we're going to change it to the value of screen, and we'll change the opacity down to 15%. Okay, 15%. Alright, so that is blending those layers in there just a little bit. So let's do this. Let's say We can look at this before and after, like, okay. Now that's what it was. That's just the hydrogen alpha layer in there. Then we added the O3 and the S2. Now it doesn't seem like it's a lot, but you get down into the detail, you'll bring out more for your master luminance layer. Master luminance, I went ahead and saved this after we made the blend. Now what we can do here is we can just merge it down and flatten the image. So you right click on it, and then down in the bottom here you'll see an option that says Flatten Image. So now we have an image that is flattened with all the details of everything blended into it. Now at this point, it's where you should take some time and try to make it the best you want. This is your luminance layer, so if you want sharpening here, or you want structures to come out a little bit better, this is the time we need to spend on it and make this the best we can. So let's go ahead and we'll try a few things and see if we can get this going. I'm going to try making some contrast with a curve. I'm going to press Control M and bring up the curves palette here. And I like to do this right here where you click on the middle, click down on the lower quarter, and click on the upper quarter, and just kind of like make a simple little S. Let's see what that does. Bring that down a little bit, bring that up, and let's see what that looks like. I like how that brings out some of the detail on there. Let me just see what this does. Let's try bringing that down just a little bit more. Ooh, that's too dark, too far. I don't want to go that far. That looks pretty good right there. Let's go ahead and give that a try with the curve. Let's take a look at before and after. There's with the curve and without the curve. Okay, that looks pretty good. What I want to try to do next is I want to try to sharpen it up and bring some of this detail out of there. Now, what I'd like to do is let's go ahead and we'll make a copy of it. And we'll call this the Fine Detail Sharpen. Okay. And what I would like to do here is go to Filter, Other, High Pass. Now you bring up the high pass filter, it's going to bring up this a block here. Concentrate on the fine detail, and here if you use this high pass radius, you can kind of slide that back and forth and see how different things change with the different sizes of the structures. Let's go ahead and see if we can zoom in on here to get to closer to 100% so we can see the actual fine little details here. Let's try backing this down a little bit. Yeah, that's looking good. Let's see what let's try something around 6 or 7 there. Okay, so that's a pretty good representation of the fine detail. So let's just say okay there. And what we'll do with this now is we're going to change the mode here to overlay. So let's go ahead and change that to overlay now. And you can see right away before and after, you can see a lot of that fine detail just starting to pop out of there really nicely. Now, the wonderful thing about layer masks, they're an astrophotographer's best friend in Photoshop, is that you can apply these details into precise locations. So we don't necessarily need to apply it to the whole image. So let's do this. We'll go to Layer, Layer Mask, Hide All. Okay, so now we can see that we've hidden everything, and it made this little black pane that you see right here. And what we're going to do is we're going to poke holes with it with a paintbrush, and in order to poke a hole in that black mask, we use a white paintbrush. Now, we want fine details here, so we don't want to get a super gigantic brush. Right now it's set to 200. If I use the open and close square brackets, I can bring it down. But as you can see, if I start painting over this fine detail, what happens is the fine detail pops out, and yet the rest of it doesn't get all sharpened. So what I'm looking for is I like this black inside of the center here, and as I start painting it, you can see some of that fine detail just really starting to pop out really nicely. And that's when you use the layer mask, it gives you the ability to just affect the parts of the image that you want and leave the rest of the image alone. And that's a great tool. Fine details labeled out there, and we've got that in there. Now let's work on the larger structures. So I'll make another copy of that image, bring it up in there, turn off this fine detail now. We're not going to be working with that at the moment. But what we'll do is we'll go to the same thing. We'll go to Filter, Other, High Pass. And this time what we're going to do is we're going to aim our target at a larger radius. Before we were down really low getting the fine details. Now we're going to be looking at the larger structures as the point of sharpening here. So let's go about well, 56 looks like a fairly good number. So we'll say OK there. And what we're going to do here on the blend mode is we're going to call this blend mode here soft light. So we'll go over here and say soft light. And now again, as you can see, this has applied everything of this sharpening to the entire image, and we want to use a layer mask. We don't want to apply this to everything. So let's go to layer, layer mask, hide all, and what we'll do now is we've got the layer mask selected, we've got the brush selected, we've got white on the brush, and now we're going to poke a white hole through this black mask, and let's just go ahead and start painting it through. And this right here, at the large structure, I can just use a bigger paintbrush and kind of get most of everything in the nebula area here, just to bring that out a bit. Okay, so now that we have that painted out and we've got the sharpening there, what we're going to do now is we do the same thing we did before: filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and this time what we're going to do is we're going to use a very strong blur. I mean, before we were just barely doing any kind of blur to it, but now we're going to pump that sucker up and really make a nice gentle blend to it. So it doesn't look like, it's more natural to blend it in. So I'm just going to say OK there. And now we have this image that has both worlds here. Here we have the larger structure sharpened, and then we can apply the fine detail sharpen, and that brings out even greater detail there. So we've applied all those together, and now what I can do is I can just flatten the image, right click on it and say flatten image, and now we have our master luminance here. What I'd like to do now is kind of bring that in to our color layer that we had here. So what I'll do now is I'll just select all of it, Control A, and then Control C, copy that, go over to here and paste that on top. And then what we'll do here is we'll change this from normal to luminance, luminosity down here. Okay, so let's see what that looks like there and then there. Yeah, it looks like I did a pretty good job on there. Let's do this. Let's go ahead and see if we can zoom in on it. Yeah, that looks pretty good right there. Might want to just go ahead and do a little bit of post-processing, but I don't know. This looks pretty decent right now. Okay, we're getting down to the nitty-gritty details here, and a lot of times I find myself trying things and going back and going over it again. But let's just go ahead and see if we can take this down a little bit more. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to go ahead and flatten the image. Let's go ahead and right-click and say Flatten Image, and let's go ahead and make another copy of it. And let's do this. Let's go ahead and go to Image, Adjustments, Vibrance. Okay, now when you start using the Vibrance tool, you can really bring out some of the detail that the colors that you really like. Now, when I look at this, I bump the Vibrance up to 100. The outer corners, I like that deep gold, but this inner stuff looking kind of bluish green, I really don't like. I mean, the bluish green area I think looks better probably in the area of about 40. So let's go back and we'll use a layer mask. Let's go ahead first and we'll do this. We'll go up to 100 on the Vibrance because like I said, I like this detail on the outer edges here. So I'm going to say OK. And what I'll do here is I'm going to go Layer, Layer Mask, and I'm going to say Hide All. Now what I want to do is, of course, we're going to poke a hole through this layer mask here, get my paintbrush tool out, make sure it's white so I can paint through it. And now I'm just going to go through and paint this outer gold area that I like. And I'm not going into that blue area here. Let me go back out here. I like that. Okay. Now what I can do is go into Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur, and again, let's see here. Now that might be too much because I'm starting to really affect it. I don't want to go that far. Let's bring it down just a bit. Okay. That looks like a nice blend there. So I'm going to say OK. And now what I'm going to do is let's go ahead and make a copy of that as well so I can have it before and after. And I'll merge, right click, merge down, and now I can see before and after. I got that little bit richer gold around the outer edges. Okay, so there we go. This is the image at the final steps here. If you wanted to, of course, export it, you could do File, Save for Web Devices, and then you could select whatever file format you would like to save it as. Whatever you do, most people like to save it on, share it with other people. Sometimes you might want to resize it as well. Now, if we take a look at this and see where we came from originally, this is what the image looked like originally, and we went through the steps and we got some more color, more contrast, more details really popped out. And one last thing I wanted to say here is there are so many people turning great images, great versions of this data. And the one thing I wanted to say is that when people put images together and they process it, you give the same data set to 10 different people, and there's going to be 10 different images each and every time you send that data out. And the important thing to remember when you're making an image is make it to your preference. Your own personal gratification is the most important part of this hobby. One other thing too is that if you would like to just send me your steps on processing anything like that, I would be more than happy to share your steps in a video, and so other people can learn from your skills as well. I'm going to also extend the entry date until December, I'd say December 10th is probably the latest I can accept any images. So please try to process this data set, send it to me, and I will compile it and put it into a video for the published on the 15th. If this is your first time watching, I would like you to subscribe. I publish 2 astrophotography videos on the 1st and 15th of every month. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you soon.